At 18:42 Standard Time, the alarms in Sector Delta 9 screamed. Not the usual drone strike alert, not the trench breach warning either. No, this was different. The tone was deeper, more primal. As if the city itself sensed something it couldn't categorize. The first tremor hit 9 seconds later, not from the sky. From below beneath the glass and carbon towers of Eos Cradle, the underground metropolis nestled between the fractured cliffs of Nyria 6, the ground tore open with a howl of metal and pressure. Maglev tracks snapped like twigs. A public transit loop collapsed into a molten sinkhole, sending a dozen commuters plunging into red-lit smoke. And then came the roar. It wasn't mechanical, not artificial, not even alien in the traditional sense. It was old. It shook the glass of 40-story sun farms. It cracked the reinforced vaults of Archive Tower B-17. And it brought every citizen in the lower sectors to their knees, not with fear, but with something deeper. An instinctual recognition of something that should never have awoken. From the rupture something emerged, a beast skyscraper-sized. Scales like jagged armor, ridged and charred. Its limbs moved with the precision of tectonic shifts. Each claw the length of a spiral tram, and its eyes dark, glowing from within, scanned the city not like a predator, but like a thing remembering. Its name, long ago, was Kargan ***, and it was not supposed to exist anymore. Sira had no time to process the scream. She was already running, heart pounding against the cracked inner shell of her chest cavity, her boots slick with dust and ash. The tunnels behind her had caved in 10 minutes ago, direct hit from a Zenthari railgun. She hadn't even had time to pull her father's body from the wreckage. There had been no final goodbye, just a tremor, a scream. A pressure wave, then silence, and now this. She burst through the blown-out gates of Plaza Zero, stumbling into the dying light that filtered through the ceiling cracks above the city. The shockwave from Kargan's emergence knocked her to the ground. Concrete buckled. The old storm drain beside her exploded in steam. Bodies ran past her, screaming, bleeding. Not one of them turned to look at the girl crouched beside the shattered fountain, clutching a half-melted audio chip in one fist and bleeding from the side of her head. Sira didn't scream. She looked up. Above her, between the twin towers of the gravity stabilization complex, Tower 7 and Tower 8 stood ***. Kargan, it was scanning, not destroying. Not rampaging, it was searching ***, and something inside her stirred. The Zenthari patrol units were already moving. Automated drones darted through the fractured skyline, locking onto the giant. One of them fired. The plasma bolt struck Kargan's flank. The beast turned. It moved fast a blur of mass that should not have been able to move at all. One swipe, one clap of its clawed limb, and the drone squadron turned into a cloud of sparks and shredded alloy. The next team of drones didn't fire. They fled, but the ground troops didn't have that option. 10 human resistance fighters in old coalition armor opened fire on Kargan from the eastern rail deck. They were dead in 4 seconds. Not because Kargan chose to kill them, but because they were in the way. It stepped forward toward the towers, toward the source of its ancient memory, its head lowered, sniffing. Not the air, not the ground, the frequency. Sira blinked. Her ears were ringing, not from the blast but from something else. A vibration, subsonic, familiar. She fumbled with the melted audio chip in her palm. Her father's last recording, not a warning, not coordinates. A chant, a fragment of something no one remembered anymore. Not even the Earth-born anthropologists, except her. She was the only one who'd memorized it, note by note, tone by tone. Not because she had to, but because it felt like breathing. She crouched behind the debris wall of a collapsed power conduit, the beast's footfalls shaking the scaffolding above her. The creature's bulk loomed between the twin towers now, caught in the residual gravity field still pulsing from the fusion cores. And she realized this was what her father meant. This was the place between towers. This was the asterisk moment asterisk. Kargan wasn't killing blindly. It was waiting for something it remembered. A voice, a frequency, a signal from an age buried beneath glass and ash. Her father's voice echoed in her head. If the day comes, Sira, don't scream. Sing. She pressed her trembling palm against the cracked ferroglass panel beside her. The vibrations from the fusion stabilizer pulsed through her bones. Her vision blurred, her throat burned, and then she began to hum. Low, deep, barely above a whisper, not in any language used today. Not a hymn, not a command. A asterisk memory asterisk. The chant her father taught her as a child back when stories still mattered. And bedtime songs still carried the weight of forgotten worlds. The wind stopped, Kargan stopped. It raised its head. Its eyes, those impossible, molten eyes, asterisk locked onto her asterisk. And did not move. Sira was born between two languages that no longer had names. Her mother, Inari, was Nairian, a native of the planet's deep jungle tribes, her voice like riverstone and moonlight. Her father, Dr. Harlan Vieras, was Earthborn, a xenolinguist who came to Nairia 6 not to claim it, but to listen. Sira inherited neither world, after Inari died during the drought riots of Cycle 87. Her father raised her alone in Subsector Theta, far from the city towers. Their home was a sunken lab made from black coral and rusted satellite plating. It smelled of dust, electricity, and old songs. She grew up surrounded by whispers. Whispers trapped in data crystals, echoing from ancient dialects resurrected by her father's delicate voice. In the evenings, while other children listened to war ballads or synthetic lullabies, Sira sat cross-legged on the lab floor, listening to chants extracted from decayed skulls, to syllables that belonged to species extinct before humans learned to walk. And she loved it, not for knowledge, not for power, but because it was the only time the world made sense asterisk. Sira didn't fit, not in the dormitories of the Coalition Academy, not in the laughter of her classmates, not in the metallic food halls where screens blared news of orbital threats and dead colonies. She didn't laugh at the jokes. She didn't fight back when they mocked her eyes, green-flecked like jungle serpents. Her accent, which carried the soft edges of a language no one else recognized. They called her witch child, tone freak, half-blood ghost. Sira said nothing. She just climbed to the rooftop, always the rooftop, and sat with an old earpiece salvaged from her father's archive. From there she could listen to the recordings. Not with ears, with skin, with breath. Sometimes she'd close her eyes and imagine the voices asterisk answering. Her father never told her to fight back. He told her to remember asterisk. Language is the only thing that makes a creature more than instinct, he once said. It's what connects a parent to a child, a beast to its mate. It's what makes a asterisk howl into a asterisk warning asterisk, a asterisk song into a asterisk memory asterisk. If you can't hear that, Sira, you're just another animal. She had been 12 when he said that. Now she was 17. And this morning, before the bombs fell, before the earth cracked open and brought forth a monster from forgotten stone, her father had leaned in close, voice shaking, and whispered, "If it happens, go to the towers between them and sing." That was all. No explanation, no name, no coordinates, just a sentence. One fragment of madness. And then he pushed her through the pressure hatch, slammed it shut, and took the impact alone. She hadn't cried, not because she was brave, because her chest had locked, sealed itself in the cold logic of shock. Her limbs had moved, running, dodging, surviving, but her mind had curled up in the corner of that lab, waiting for him to come back and finish the sentence. Now she sat alone, hours later on the edge of a service duct, the skyline burning red above her, and stared at the one thing left of him, a black crystal no bigger than her thumb. The encryption seal was his signature, a triple pulse wave in the sonic pattern of the extinct **Cathara* whales. She hummed it softly, the seal broke, and the file opened. No voice, no message, just a waveform, visual not audio. Ancient, dense, she blinked. It wasn't a language she recognized. Not from any Nairian tribe, not from Earth archives. But it felt familiar. The rise and fall of the pitch wasn't structured like words. It curved like emotion. It trembled like grief. It snapped like warning. And deep beneath it, in low frequencies most humans couldn't detect, was a rhythm. A heartbeat, a slow, thunderous rhythm. Sierra's breath caught in her throat. She'd heard this once before, not in the lab, not in the archives, but in a dream. Her father had once told her a story, not bedtime fiction, but something close. There are creatures, Sierra, who never learn to speak, but they remember how speech felt. When they hear the right tone, they don't respond with words. They respond with *trust*. But if the tone is wrong, they respond with *extinction. She had asked what kind of creature could do that. He hadn't answered. Now she knew. Kargan, the thing that rose from the center of Ea's cradle, wasn't just a beast. It was a memory given mass. A song buried under layers of tectonic pressure, now awakened by chaos and pain. And it was listening. Sierra closed her eyes and let the waveform play again. She didn't try to analyze it. She didn't filter it. She let it move through her It vibrated against her teeth, against her bones, and something inside her, something older than understanding, began to hum along. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't even human, but it matched. And the crystal pulsed with blue light. She looked up through the shattered ceiling of the city. Kargan stood between the gravity towers now, unmoving, its breath slow and seismic. It was waiting, for what she didn't know, but somewhere deep in her blood, in the part of her that still remembered Inari's lullabies and her father's dusty chants, she felt it She was not the girl who knew extinct languages. She was the echo of a language that refused to die. And it had chosen her. The sky was bleeding above Ea's cradle. The twilight shimmered with green and violet bursts as the Zenthari warships deployed the second wave of orbital strikes. The tremors reached deep beneath the surface, rattling blast doors and snapping the final threads of the cities. Crumbling infrastructure, the target wasn't random. It was the Forbidden Zone Sector Null, where the ground had cracked and Kargan had emerged. The aliens weren't hunting survivors. They were trying to erase something they couldn't control. And they were failing. Sierra was running through smoke. Her lungs burned. Her boots slid over fragmented walkways. Emergency lights flickered, casting red pulses against her ash-smeared skin. Somewhere ahead, beneath the collapsed floor of a shuttle garage, 6 children were trapped. Their cries were faint, but they weren't calling for help anymore. They were just crying. Sierra dropped to her knees beside the broken grating and shouted down into the dark, "Stay there. Don't move, I'll get you out." A little girl's voice answered, trembling. "It's coming." Sierra turned. Kargan was wounded. A plasma lance from one of the aerial platforms had carved deep into its left shoulder. Glowing blood, not red, not blue, but the color of memory and burnt soil, spilled onto the cracked pavement. The beast writhed in agony, claws carving scars into the stone. It roared, and the force of it shattered the nearest solar tower. And yet, it didn't lash out blindly. It avoided the bunker where the children hid. Even in its pain, it moved with asterisk intention asterisk, not like a monster, like something trying not to become one. Sira pulled a stabilizer bar from the wreckage and jammed it between two broken girders. The hole widened. One by one, she helped the children crawl out. Two boys, both crying. A girl with a broken arm. A toddler who didn't speak, only clung to her shirt. The last one out was the girl who'd spoken. She looked at Sira, eyes wide, then pointed over her shoulder. Kargan was closer now. Its breathing shook the air like an avalanche. It turned its massive head, and its molten eyes fell on Sira. They didn't blaze with hunger. They shimmered with asterisk recognition. She dug into her coat and pulled out the black crystal again. The waveform file was still open, still pulsing. She played it. The air shimmered. The frequency vibrated through her bones, through the concrete, through the scorched and trembling muscles of the creature before her. Kargan twitched, its wounded leg bent, and then it asterisk stilled. The beast lowered its head by a fraction. A silence fell over the square. But it didn't last. The Zenthari drones arrived, 4 of them sleek, angular, bone-white with red tracer lights under their wings, locked onto Sira's location within seconds. One scan was all it took. They didn't recognize her as a threat. They recognized the crystal, the weapon. A warning flashed across her vision, asterisk target acquired, ethnolinguistic resonance detected. The lead drone opened fire. Sira grabbed the youngest child and dove. Explosions tore through the square behind her. Shrapnel burned across her back as she shoved the children into a ventilation shaft. Go, crawl, don't stop, the girl hesitated. Where will asterisk you go? Sira met her eyes. To the only place they can't destroy. She ran, through the hollow veins of the city, through the dying bones of the machines her ancestors had built. Smoke filled her lungs, pain screamed through her thighs. The drones chased her like sharks in the sky, but Sira knew where she was going. Tower 7, the core of Eos Cradle's energy system. It was never meant to be a weapon. But her father once said, asterisk, anything that shapes gravity can shape behavior. And anything that shapes behavior is language. She burst into the gravity control chamber, sealed the door behind her, and slumped against the wall, panting, bleeding. The drones hovered outside. She had seconds. The panel was rusted, half offline, blinking with warning lights. But the primary function still worked. Sira keyed in her father's override code, the last 4 notes of the Kargan frequency, and the interface lit up. She engaged asterisk static gravity lock asterisk. A tremor ran through the city. Outside, the air froze asterisk. Not cold asterisk, still asterisk, perfectly still. She looked through the cracked glass viewport and saw it, Kargan locked mid-step. Between the twin towers, frozen in place, caught in a web of invisible force. The drones closed in behind her. One fired at the control panel. Sira didn't flinch. She turned, stood in the center of the chamber, and sang asterisk. It wasn't perfect. Her voice cracked, her pitch wavered. But it didn't matter, because it wasn't a song meant for beauty. It was meant for asterisk memory asterisk. The words weren't words. The melody wasn't melody. It was asterisk emotion asterisk, layered into tone. Each note carried pain, grief, longing, and something deep within Kargan answered asterisk. Its body convulsed, not from agony, but from awareness. The gravity lock held it still, but its mind was free asterisk. Sira stepped closer to the window, blood on her lip, fire in her voice. She sang louder, until the glass hummed, until the towers trembled, until Kargan asterisk lowered its head toward her, and listened. Kargan roared, and the city fractured. The sound tore through the core of Eos Cradle like a pressure wave of memory and rage. Concrete shattered, drones spiraled out of formation. The towers moaned under the force, their frames vibrating at frequencies they were never designed to withstand. Sierra stood in the control chamber, her hand pressed against the cracked viewport, her breath sharp and ragged. The beast's body trembled under the grip of the artificial gravity lock, its limbs buckling, muscles spasming. Each movement was like a tectonic shift, trying to defy the laws anchoring it to the earth. Outside, bolts of Zinthari plasma fire arced down from the clouds. One struck near Tower 8. The shockwave knocked Sierra to her knees. Still she got up, her hair was singed, her voice raw and shredded from too much screaming. Her throat bled, but she sang again. Each note was slower now, drawn from places inside her even she hadn't known existed. Pain, yes, but something more ancient than grief, something that ached to be heard. Kargan stopped thrashing. Its molten eyes turned toward the tower and locked onto her. It saw her, not as prey, not as a controller, but as something familiar. It leaned forward, its colossal head trembling under the pressure field. A groan escaped its throat, low, guttural, unfinished. Like a word half forgotten, Sierra's voice cracked again. She dropped to one knee, fingers curled into the floor to stay conscious. No one was answering her, no command unit, no backup. No human soul. If her father had lived, maybe he could have told her whether the song she sang was even correct. Whether the language was real, or just remnants of a failed experiment. But she didn't know. All she knew was that something in Kargan was listening. "I don't know if you understand me," she whispered hoarsely into the console mic. "But I'm not here to chain you. I don't want to make you into anything you're not." She looked up at the broken sky. The Zinthari ships had deployed a siege cannon, a rotating plasma array big enough to crack a mountain. It was targeting the space between the towers. Sierra had maybe 5 minutes. She turned back to the glass. Kargan's front limbs shook violently under the weight of the gravitational anchors. Its back arched. Steam rose from its wounds like incense from a funeral pyre. "You know pain," she said softly. "I see it. I feel it." Her voice shook, but not from fear, from truth. "I lost my father this morning. You probably don't know what that means. But if you do, if you've ever lost someone who saw you for who you were, then you know why I'm here." She pressed her forehead against the control panel. "I'm not a soldier. I don't have weapons. I don't want to kill them. I just want to stop the bleeding asterisk." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If you understand that, don't let them end me." The gravity field was reaching critical instability. The siege cannon fired its charge sequence, flashes of violet lightning building above like an artificial sun. Sierra wiped blood from her cheek and staggered to the harmonic tuner. Her fingers hovered over the controls. This is where she would die. Or change everything. She remembered her father's words, "The Kargan don't speak. They feel. Their language isn't in symbols, it's in the shape of tone. The rise and fall of emotion itself. They don't roar to threaten. They roar to respond." Sierra reached for the frequency modulator. She took a deep breath, placed the black crystal against the sensor pad, and aligned the waveform with the tower's gravity field. Her voice wavered, but she sang again, this time not through her mouth but through the machines. The pulse from the song synced with the gravity oscillators. They responded and began to lift. The air between the towers bent, curving around Kargan like an invisible spiral. The pressure reversed, gravity unfolded and Kargan began to rise. First 1 inch, then a foot, then gracefully its entire mass left the ground. It did not struggle, it surrendered, not in defeat but in choice. The siege cannon fired, but it was too late, Kargan screamed. Not in rage, in music. The sound pierced the clouds like a choir of tectonic plates singing in harmony with a dying star. It harmonized with the waveform from the tower, amplifying it, magnifying it. The blast from the siege cannon never reached the towers. It bent midair and shattered. The shockwave tore through the alien warships in the upper atmosphere. Cracking hulls and scrambling navigation fields, drones fell from the sky. Syrah stared, shaking. Tears streamed down her face. Not from fear, from the impossible beauty of it all. Kargan rose past the towers, past the broken skyline, past the remains of the old world, and roared again. The sound wasn't pain anymore. It was memory. It was answer. Syrah collapsed to the floor of the control chamber. Alive, shaking, breathing, and somewhere above the last surviving beast of an ancient age, once thought to be a monster, flew toward the stars, carrying the voice of a girl who had no army, no power. Only a song, only grief, only the courage to ask if a beast could feel loss. The night above Nyria 6 blazed with war, and at the center of it, cutting through the darkness like a god unbound, flew Kargan ***, the ancient titan reborn in grief and rage. Its roar shattered the silence between worlds. Each blast of sound rippled through the atmosphere like a shockwave, knocking Zenthari warships off course, cracking their hulls, turning their formation into chaos. The beast moved with impossible grace, carving through the fleet in wide arcs of kinetic fury. With every beat of its wings, if they could be called that, the sky rippled and screamed. Some ships exploded instantly. Others spun out of control, colliding into their brethren, set aflame by their own propulsion systems. They hadn't prepared for this. No one had, not for a weapon that felt. Far below, inside the heart of the gravity control chamber, Syrah clung to the console with trembling hands. She could barely breathe. A jagged shard of glass was embedded just beneath her collarbone, blood seeping through her jacket. Running in thin lines down her ribs, her vision blurred. Every movement sent a wave of white-hot agony up her spine. But her fingers didn't leave the microphone, and her voice didn't stop. The mic had cracked in the earlier blast, the transmission feed warped, but it still worked. Barely, she pressed her lips to the receiver, whispering through blood, "Stay steady, Kargan. Keep rising." Her song was no longer a song, it was a plea stitched into rhythm, woven with breath and defiance. She watched the monitors flicker with readings, altitude shifts, kinetic stress, atmospheric density, and gravity output, redlining. The energy stabilizers weren't meant for this. Not to suspend a creature of that mass, not for this long. Not at this altitude. The system was overheating, core temperature nearing breach. Pressure seals buckling. The city's failsafe screamed, emergency override required. Core collapse in 0348. If she didn't cut the field, the entire tower might implode. But if she did, Kargan would fall, not into open sky, into Sector E3, where thousands of refugees, children, elders, unarmed civilians, had taken shelter after the first wave of attacks. It would be annihilation, not by Kargan's choice, but by gravity. By ***, Syrah coughed, blood splashed across the console. Her lips trembled, and for the first time since the song began, she hesitated. She stared at the waveform display, still pulsing, still in rhythm with Kargan's movements. And she whispered, "Is this really your voice or mine?" No answer came. Just the low hum of strained machines and distant thunder, and the flickering red of a dying system. She leaned forward, forehead pressed to the cracked glass of the viewport. Above, Kargan twisted midair, catching a Zenthari fighter in its jaws and flinging it into a fuel carrier. The resulting explosion painted the clouds orange. Yet even in that chaos, the beast's eyes never lost focus. They searched, they listened, not for commands, for asterisk permission. And Sira understood. It wasn't being controlled anymore. It was trusting her. That was the weight she now carried. Her hands hovered over the shutdown interface. The red button blinked. One press and the field would drop. Kargan would lose lift. Velocity, trajectory, direction, everything would fall to raw physics. Sira's blood pooled on the floor. She closed her eyes and whispered, "If you've ever known pain, if you've ever chosen not to become the thing they feared, then this time, don't wait for me. Fly because you choose to. End this, not for me. For everyone who thought monsters couldn't listen." And she pressed the button. The gravity field collapsed. The waveform severed, the lights died, the tower went silent. No force held Kargan aloft now. No song, no machine, no command. Just one moment, and choice. For half a second the Titan dropped. Then its wings twisted against the wind. It found balance in the air, not through thrust but through rhythm. Through instinct, through memory, Kargan screamed. But this time it wasn't a roar of pain. It was a war cry . A sound that cracked the sky itself. Below, Sira fell to the floor, unconscious. Kargan's body glowed with heat and kinetic charge, light wrapping around its frame like armor forged of sound and sorrow. It turned toward the last Zenthari vessel, the mothership. A fortress in orbit, shielded, armed with 6 plasma arrays and a hypercore cannon. But none of it mattered, not against what was coming. Kargan rose one final time, its roar built into a crescendo. A resonance so pure, so devastating, that the electromagnetic field of the planet twisted in response. Birds fled the hemisphere, clouds spiraled backward. For one frozen breath in the fabric of time, every sentient being within 1,000 kilometers felt that sound. And then Kargan struck. It wasn't a collision. It was a requiem . The mothership exploded from within, its shield fractured by pressure harmonics before its hull split like paper. Light flooded the upper atmosphere, cascading in waves of violet and silver, wrapping the night in quiet, electric fire. When it faded, there was no trace of Kargan, no body. No shadow, just silence, and wind. In the ruins of Tower 7, deep beneath steel and flame, Sira stirred. Eyes barely open, chest barely rising, she felt no sound. But somewhere far off, in the place between memory and meaning, she felt heard . And for the first time in her life, she smiled. Morning came like it had forgotten what night meant. The sky over Nyria 6, once split with fire and shrieking metal, now glowed in hues of gray and dust-touched gold. The ash in the air settled gently, almost respectfully, over the ruined towers of Eos Cradle. There were no alarms, no gunfire, no more screams. The war was over. The Zenthari had vanished . No retreat orders. No transmissions, no final strike, just silence, 1 hour after the mothership's detonation. The remaining fleet disengaged from orbit and disappeared into subspace. No resistance, no explanation, no final blow. As if something primal had whispered into their bones, "You lost." But the city did not cheer, not because it wasn't grateful, but because something was missing. There was no body. No beacon, no transmission, no Siravira's . The official report called it a thermal energy burst. When Kargan struck the mothership, the shockwave had ruptured several atmospheric control layers. Tower 7's control chamber had been directly exposed. The team sent to recover her found only blood and a console. Still humming. Inside the remains of the gravity core, engineers discovered something that should have been impossible. The system was still online, despite the field collapse. Despite the overload, despite Sira severing the manual link. Somehow the tower continued to pulse with controlled gravitic resonance. The readings weren't stable, but they were rhythmic, deliberate, and embedded in the pattern, repeating at near subsonic levels, was a fragment of human voice. Not a message, not a command, a asterisk song asterisk, or more precisely, a asterisk loop chant glitched and scarred, full of static and decay. But unmistakable, Syrah's voice, the same frequency she had sung in the final hour. The file name, barely legible in corrupted script, read, Echo. Bloodline underneath, scrawled directly on the floor with a cracked stylus, written in blood. Shaky but intentional were 5 words, "Don't let it die again." The coalition didn't know what to do with that. The war had ended. That much was clear, but victory had come not from a weapon, not from a commander, but from a girl most of them had never heard of. A girl with no rank, no uniform, no place in any database of strategic personnel. The one who had spoken with a beast, who had rewritten the laws of engagement with asterisk sound asterisk. Some called it myth, others called it miracle, but among the engineers and linguists who reviewed the resonance logs, there was one consensus: she hadn't controlled Kargan. She had asterisk understood asterisk it, and that was what the enemy couldn't fight. Weeks passed, the city began rebuilding, refugees returned. Lights flickered back to life. The 2 towers remained mostly intact, though Tower 7 was sealed, too unstable to inhabit. Yet no one tried to shut down the gravity core inside it. They listened to the loop. It grew fainter with each passing day, fading like the heartbeat of someone drifting into sleep. But every so often, when the air was still, someone walking past the perimeter would stop and feel it. A note, a breath, a voice too distant to explain, too close to ignore. Children began humming again. Not the war songs, not the synthetic anthems from orbital broadcasts. Something asterisk older asterisk. Notes passed from ear to ear, imperfect but persistent. No one taught them, no one remembered how it started. But slowly the words returned, syllables with no dictionary, cadences with no origin, whispers of pain and healing. One morning, a boy climbed the half-melted stairs of Tower 8. He was the son of a former technician, one of the first to reach the gravity chamber the night Syrah vanished. He wasn't supposed to be up there, but something had pulled him toward the edge of the broken sky bridge, where the wind carried the weight of something unfinished. He stood on the ledge, face to the sky. Then, without knowing why, he opened his mouth and sang asterisk. Only 3 notes, the same 3 Syrah had once whispered when she was 12, alone on a rooftop, trying to remember what her mother's voice had sounded like. The boy sang them, soft, careful, and in the silence after, something answered asterisk. A ripple in the clouds, a low hum like thunder folded into lullaby. Not wind, not machine, not gone. The boy stepped back from the ledge, his heart pounding. He didn't tell anyone what he'd heard, he just smiled. And sang again, somewhere beyond orbit, beyond signal range. Beyond certainty, something ancient drifted free of chains. Its body long gone, its memory burned bright, and within that memory, folded like a promise beneath bone and scar, lingered the voice of a girl who was never supposed to matter. A girl who had no army, no weapons, only empathy, only loss asterisk. Only a voice that refused to die quietly. This was never a story about military victory. There were no medals awarded, no statues erected, no scrolls etched with the name Syrah Viras. No public holiday marked the date the Zinthari vanished. No orbital monuments lit up in celebration. And yet, asterisk the world survived. Because one girl who should have stayed silent refused asterisk too. Not with weapons, not with command authority, but with a voice that trembled. And a song that felt. People still ask, years later, what Kargan asterisk was asterisk. Some call it a beast, Others, a biological weapon lost to history. A few insist it was sentient, intelligent even, but broken by centuries of human fear. But most who truly understood the aftermath have come to a quieter answer. Kargan wasn't a monster. It was a memory, a living relic of everything humans tried to bury beneath steel and logic and control. A creature made of pain, shaped by silence. It roared not to destroy, but because no one had ever listened when it whispered. Until Sira, she wasn't a soldier, she didn't wear armor, didn't carry a gun, didn't march into battle with orders or tactics or legions behind her. She was alone, a girl raised between two lost cultures. Too strange for one world, too human for another. They called her names: witch child, tone freak, ghost blood. They mocked her voice, feared her silence, but Sira had something they didn't. She listened, not to command signals or encrypted messages. She listened to howl and hurt to tones without meaning and meanings too deep for translation. And when the moment came, when every system failed and the sky cracked open, she spoke. She sang what she offered Kargan was not obedience, not control, not manipulation. She offered recognition. And that in the end was what saved the world. There's a small archive now, unofficial, tucked away in the lower levels of the rebuilt Eos cradle. Inside it there are no weapons, only fragments of sound, of breath, of language. On repeat, softly playing, is a recording salvaged from the gravity core. A three-note sequence distorted by static, scratched into history by blood and heat. No one knows exactly what the notes mean, but everyone feels them. Children hum them in schoolyards. Pilots whisper them before atmospheric entry. Old veterans nod silently when they hear the rhythm on passing calm waves. It's not just a song anymore. It's a reminder: Kargan is gone. Sira is gone, but the echo remains. And sometimes that's all it takes for a story to outlive its ending. If you are human, remember this: technology can build machines. It can simulate emotion, replicate behavior, weaponize silence, and automate survival, but only compassion can turn a creature into a companion. Only empathy can stop a scream from becoming a weapon. Sira didn't end a war with strength. She ended it with understanding. She met a roar with a song. She stood before extinction and said, "You are not alone." And that changed everything, so don't fear the roar. Fear the day we forget how to whisper back. In the end, Sira wasn't a warrior. She was an echo of a forgotten language spoken not by the tongue, but by the heart. A language that asked no permission to exist. It simply waited for someone willing to feel it. And if you are human, let that someone be you.